Hello and welcome everyone to Kids for Ransom, the podcast where we expose the flaws, corruption, and systematic failures of the modern family court system.
We're just two everyday dads fighting for our kids and speaking out for parents across the country who are struggling to stay connected to their children.
In every episode, we'll dig into the real world scenarios, court documents, and personal stories that show us how the system is broken and how it's being used to hold our children hostage in legal battles that too often serve money and power, not families or justice.
We'll also break down the laws, policies, and court procedures that are being misused and or misunderstood, and we'll share the hard-earned lessons we've learned along the way.
Just to be clear, nothing we share should be taken as legal advice. We're not lawyers. We're parents, and we're here to inform, educate, bring awareness to the reality that too many families are facing.
If you'd like to follow our journey, hit that thumbs up and subscribe and hit that ping notification bell. Families are being broken in silence. It's time to pull back the curtain on family court and stand with parents and children being held for ransom.
Okay, welcome back. Today we want to actually touch base on third-party extensions of the court and the abuse that these extensions are doing on your family law case and profiteering from abusing their services.
Yeah, and that's the problem with a lot of these third parties that we're going to talk about today is that they, like the attorneys, they financially profit when the conflict continues, when the case continues. They don't have a financial interest in wrapping up the case and getting fair custody recommendations. They have a financial interest in the case continuing. So they like when there's a high conflict parent, and all it takes is one high conflict parent.
Yeah. That's kind of like what every channel out there could tell you about all these cases and how any kind of family law case just keeps getting, it's like snowballing into a worse and worse situation. And it's, I think it's the court system, the courts fuel this fire,
Oh, yes, absolutely.
like
Absolutely. They love it.
yeah, it could have been dissipated a long time ago through agreements outside of court, but the court is actually what then, just throws this nitrous on top of the fire.
And what's sad is the kids can sense this conflict. It should be the court's position to reduce this conflict and try to neutralize it in some way. Instead, they lean into it because of, in my opinion, profit.
Right.
Yeah. So, and some of these third parties that we're going to talk about today, some of them we don't have direct maybe experience with. Some of them we do, but we'll kind of touch base on a good handful of them here. The first one we'll talk about is minors counsel. In California, this is done under Family Code 3150, and I think it's pretty similar to like a guardian ad litem, and it's essentially a third attorney. You could have mom with an attorney, dad with an attorney, and then they bring in a third attorney to represent the child's best interest, which I think is funny because I thought the court was there to act in the best interest of the child, but somehow they need an extra attorney to do that, apparently.
Right.
Thankfully, I haven't had this problem with my case, and I've heard from people that have, and it just turns into a nightmare.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Financially dreading. And I'm even hearing, I'm not sure if all counties follow this, but here in California, the way it was reported by Susan Bassey was that they actually are immune. The minors counsel issued by the court, it seems that they have immunity, and that's mind-boggling. That's like, damn, you're telling me there's no recourse.
Yeah.
Once again, who takes accountability, for errors, especially purposely done. And what now you have no recourse, and then you're really screwed. I'd say stay away from minors counsel altogether.
Oh, absolutely. I've heard from so many parents who the stories about the guardian ad litem, especially there, it's a nightmare They
Right,
come
which
in
is
and it's almost like they have a motive, and that is to make money. In fact, one case I heard, um, they were a guardian ad litem was appointed, and I think the parents could not afford it, so the court said, okay, then basically the court will fund it. The state taxes will fund it, through whatever program they use. I don't know
yeah,
what that is. And I think they said it was only 3 or 4 weeks until they changed that. Once they got the guardian ad litem appointed to the case, then the guardian ad litem says, oh, well, no, I need to get paid. So maybe he doesn't get paid as much if it's paid by the state, or maybe it was initially done without payment. And 3 to 4 weeks later, after he's already been appointed to the case, then it's like, oh no, parents do have to pay it now. And in my situation, since the other party doesn't work and refuses to follow seek work orders, then that would mean I would have to pay it in my situation. And
yeah.
what do you do when you just don't have the money? I mean, at this point, I don't have the money for an attorney for
Well, that's
myself, let alone adding a third one that wants to come in there and make a payday. You know?
this is where I could have hoped that a FL 150, getting that submitted into the court is like, hey, this is, this is my pay. Um, but once again, it's just like DCSS. They don't care about all your expenses. They care about how much money you make. And I kind of feel like they're gonna just, lowball you, and they're gonna freaking, say you're gonna pay for it. You got income, and we don't care about your expenses, but pay this. And you're left now in that hard decision of, okay, don't see the kid or pay this outrageous fee to an attorney who's going to be arguing against me.
Yeah, yeah,
to, to,
and let's remember the average attorney in my area is $400 to $500. It can go
yeah,
up from there.
yes,
That's an
yes.
insane number for 1 hour of work,
It is
and
insane.
I'm inclined to believe it's very possible. I mean, they're probably working on multiple cases at the same time,
Yeah,
but they're still going to bill you for the whole hour. It's all
yeah.
about making money, billable hours. That's what drives these courts.
What's interesting, I found out as well, is with these minor counsel cases, um, minors counsel can even take cases outside of the court. They can get into a high conflict case with two parents that are pretty wealthy, and they go and then make money in those cases as well, to where they're in a private judge, because you can have a private
Yeah, I was
judge.
going to say that's what it sounds like to me is that they would
Yeah,
agree to take it out of the court's hands and agree on this what you would hope is a neutral third party and this attorney representing the child. That's interesting. I've never heard of that.
but this is the corruption, though, is that that minors counsel, they're then trying to, get unbelievable amount of billing hours,
Yeah,
and that was not even needed. So they're able to create, false narratives. They're able to create, here's just a concern here, and I need to be able to look into this a little further. No, man. Or they'll just make a motion that just kicks the can down the road,
yeah,
and they're just getting, billable hours, on these types of cases outside of the court. But then think about inside the court, and then their narrative is obviously to make more money. It's incentive driven. They don't care
yeah,
about fixing the case. They don't care about the kids. They just want to make as much money as they possibly can. So the example of this, I'm bringing this up, is because I did happen to come across, there is one of those over in oh god, it's somewhere up like in Silicon Valley area. This um, this attorney, minors counsel attorney, makes $50 million because of this very thing I'm talking about, in these cases where it goes to the court and then does all
50
the
million in a year.
yeah. Well, is it in a year? I
I mean,
think
that's an
that's what it
insane
said.
number. That is an
I think that's
insane
what they
number.
said. And when you think about that, like, they're doing these private cases right outside of the court, but they're hiring judges that can come in and do the decisions and the orders, and and those are still applicable to law because those judges are and still a whatever, they're an officer of the court. They're just not, you're just not in a court. It's
Yeah.
amazing how that actually plays out. But we're talking about, like, these are also people who've got millions of dollars also. Those are the
Yeah, I was gonna say, to make that kind of money, we have to be talking about some very wealthy
right,
individuals dealing with.
right. And that's the point. And so you can see this is exactly why, like, okay, when you have a minor's counsel like that, who's, let's just forget about those private hearings and just focus on what's going into the court. If you're hired by the court, that costs money from the court when the parents aren't paying for it. And
Yeah.
where that money comes from, as we talked about, it comes from your taxes. But when you've got tax money going towards these idiots, sorry to say, but these minors counsel that has no business in the family court at all for your child, because you, the parent, as well as the other parent, are the legal decision makers of the child. But if they're paying
We're
this,
supposed to be, but it doesn't always work out that way.
well, but focus here. So if they're paying tax money dollars into a minor's counsel, but yet their courts are crying, saying they don't have the money to pay for a court reporter in these courts, what's more important is obviously is what can be made more in the extension of these attorneys rather than a court reporter. And as we've talked about in the past, you cannot go to an appellate court to raise any issues if you don't have a court reporter. And court reporters are the one that produces the transcripts. So that is very important to have, is that transcript. We're not really getting that unless you actually have all that money to go and fork on your own to get a court reporter and get the transcript, right?
Yeah.
So once again, another extension of the court reporters, but I want to go to that one.
Yeah, no, I agree to your point. I think instead of adding a third attorney to a child, when the court's position is already supposed to be in the best interest of the child, I don't know why we'd need to add a third attorney to argue for the best interest of the child. That money would be better spent if we're truly trying to create legal orders, fair orders respecting parents' rights, and provide accuracy in the courts. That money would be way better spent on making sure that every single hearing, every single trial has a court reporter there. Now, if they want to charge for the transcript, that's a whole nother conversation, but they should be there to create a record of what's happening. Because in my experience, man, when you don't have those court reporters there, they can make a ruling, they can get it wrong, and if you have no way of proving what was done, they're not going to listen to anything you got to say in order to fix that mistake.
Right, exactly.
There's been mistakes in my case this last year that if I didn't have a court reporter, I would have suffered, the child would have suffered, and the court wouldn't have done anything about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
another one is, again, thankful that this hasn't come up in my case, at least yet, is a custody evaluator. I've heard them called the 730 evaluators or 3011 evaluators.
Yeah.
And that's just a court-appointed psychologist or social worker who is supposed to do a deep dive. And sometimes they'll do testing, especially if they're a psychologist. They'll do home visits, and then they'll make a final report to the court. And once again, this is another opportunity for someone to make a significant amount of money. This can cost anywhere from $5,000 to $20,000, probably even higher at times. The more high conflict, the higher the people get to charge, because the case just gets dragged out and dragged out and dragged out. And the problem is, just like a lot of these third parties, when the court ends up adopting their recommendations a lot of the time without their own critical review of the case. So it's like kind of like the court's giving their authority to a third party that does not have an obligation to respect people's rights. They did not take an oath. A 730 evaluator, a 3011 evaluator, they didn't take an oath to uphold the Constitution, whereas that judge did.
Right. Right.
So when they just blindly follow a third party's orders like that, that's a problem for me. Not to say there's not a time when stuff like this might be necessary. Sure. But once again, like a lot of these things in the courts, I think they're abused probably quite frequently.
Yeah, and the therapists, those type of therapists, I found attorneys actually are trying to push for. And the hook here, here's the hook. Because a parent most of the time in a high conflict will sit and actually think, all right, there's so many behavioral problems that are happening with my child since I'm not with them. And so we go into the category of parental alienation. Well, this type of therapist is one who actually tries to expose parental alienation. Now, an attorney, they always want to try to hear this out of their clients that parental alienations happen. The motive here is to push for 3011. Is that was it 3011?
3111.
3111. Yeah.
Yeah.
And get this therapist to go and do, their extensive whatever they
Deep
want to call
dive. The deep dive for
whatever
the
they want to
judge.
call it.
You know?
But so yeah, they're I guess the golden ticket there is parental alienation, and then there goes let's push for this now 3111. And then this kind of happened in my case. Thank God that I didn't actually go with the 3111 and get a therapist. That was actually what I started to believe I needed to go in that direction because I knew that there was parental alienation going on. I was watching so many of these videos that kind of was like helping understanding like, all right, what does one do when they feel that there's parental alienation? I can't believe it's even suggested out there to actually go get one of these therapists and to help prove this parental alienation. But
Yeah.
yeah, so when I had the attorney, he actually had brought that up to the judge of let's have an evidentiary, and I believe there's parental alienation going on, and we will suggest having a parental whatever what are they actually? They're parental monitors, right? Or it's two different kinds. There's
Talking about like the visitation monitors for the supervised visitation, or what are you talking about?
parental evaluator, and there's also there's another type that they have as well. I'll get back to that. But yeah, so my attorney was actually trying to push for that. And well, thankfully I fired him going into the evidentiary on my own. I did that, pro se.
Yeah.
And so I just lined out all of the issues that were being brought up about, hey, my ex wasn't even trying to go to the conjoined therapist. My ex was avoiding every type of communication. I'm finding behavioral problems in the phone calls that we're having. Anyway, so all these different things. So I got away from that. And that was I think that's the only reason is because I didn't bring that up, and I wasn't pushing for, one of these therapists, which I think would have been detrimental to my case. But then again, if you think about it, maybe that's why that this judge said in that hearing we should continue the conjoint therapy, because that's the narrative. Let's just keep on adding extensions to your case.
Well, yeah, and here's the problem with a lot of these third parties that they're bringing in, whether it be a custody evaluator, psychologist, or a guardian ad litem, is that, and I think Susan Bassi has touched on this in a lot of her stories because she talks a lot about guardian ad litems. Mm-hmm. And the fact that they generally use the same ones, there's a handful that they will pick from. So they're probably friends of these judges, right? They're both members of the bar, they're peers.
Right.
And so you better bet that there's ones that are getting handed these easy cases to make a lot of money, you know? And So they'll have a relationship with the judge already, and they're probably getting these little hand-me-down cases. And when you have a judge who has a relationship with that third party that they're bringing in, that's their peer, that for me, as a parent who would just want to be protecting my parental rights, that's concerning, right? There's huge concerns for that situation to be abused and create a situation that hurts someone's rights, that hurts the child in the end.
No, very much so. This is in the guardian ad litem, which is kind of playing the role almost like minors counsel, right? So that's going to be the case. The the incentive drive to continue on getting more hearings, having more problems,
Yeah.
fabricating problems. I I don't. I guess depending on your county, but I don't even understand this process now that I've went through it, because I did get a gal issued in my case. And that was just due to a restraining order hearing, right? A TRO. But man, dude, I mean, here I've always been told that they are actually issued by the court. This situation was we were not going to go in and ask for, sorry, we were not going to pay for one of these guardian ad litems. Both had refused to pay for one. So the judge literally said, pick 3 people that you know, and you present them as a guardian ad litem to the case, and then I'll decide on which one would fit. I mean, that was so strange, but apparently that can happen. I mean, I guess I would really need to look into that further, why they would even suggest this, but yeah, so got to have one of those guardian ad litems being. I got lucky in the situation, I think, because the one that my ex picked, he got selected, and he was just some guy that that she's known and friends with for so many years, but that guy hadn't a clue of what goes on in courts. Not to mention, the guy couldn't even speak English hardly at all. I mean, I know this guy very well.
That sounds like maybe, yeah, so this person maybe doesn't have this financial incentive to drag the case on, but man, they sound incompetent to be in that kind of role then.
Yeah, it was
How do they know
totally
what's in the best
incompetent.
interest of the child? Do they even have a child?
Yeah,
And, and
he's got a couple, but this guy never showed up to one hearing, not one hearing.
what a joke. What a joke. So
Well,
this
really,
next one, this is something you have experience, I think, here with. Are other court ordered therapists. It could be conjoint therapy, reunification therapy, which that's a whole other conversation there, or therapists for the child themselves.
yeah.
Um,
I definitely got experience with that one. It's a joke. It is a joke, my friend.
yeah,
You
yeah,
wouldn't
you
believe
were
the things
ordered.
that they tell you to do in that thing either. We'll get to that. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. And once again, this is parents that are having to pay out of pocket. This is
Right.
another third party that's being brought in. Um, a lot of the time, I would guess, against the objection of at least one or both parents, and forcing them to have to pay for it anyway.
Yeah. Yes.
No fee
And
waiver
you're
for that.
stuck. You're really you're in between a rock and a hard place, because if you want
Yeah,
to see your child, that's your only, your only method. Especially like in my case, my only way of actually having parenting time was doing the conjoint therapy. I could not see my daughter in any other way.
yeah,
It
yeah,
was it was a nightmare. But and you got these people who are the therapists literally got by the cojones, man. If they don't show up, so oh well, you can't do anything about it. If they actually are late, can't do anything about it. If
yeah,
the other parent miscommunicates with them, can't do anything about it. I missed so many appointments, so many opportunities, all because of either that therapist or my ex, and couldn't do anything about it. There was nothing the judge was actually doing to help, protect my right to see my child in that
yeah.
circumstance. But you tell me this. I want to mention this because I'm kind of like curious on anybody's thoughts, and you can leave it in the comments. But if you were to see your child, and a child, is telling you something, maybe that something bad happened, that you know beyond a reasonable doubt that it never happened. It was like you fantasized this in your own head, kid. But the therapist would tell you to apologize to the child, and to apologize and tell the child, I'm sorry, I won't, I really didn't mean to do that, and I really love you, and I wouldn't want to do that to you ever again. And it could be anything, my friend. I mean, think of the worst. And
Yeah.
he wants you to apologize to the child instead of
That,
straighten it out like, okay, let's actually let's talk about this and explain the situation and see where there's truth in it and where there's actually like fabrication.
and this is the problem with these third parties is triangulation. Um, it's an excellent opportunity for people that are extremely manipulative,
Mhm.
and you see this very commonly with people that are in these high conflict custody battles, and they show behavioral behaviors that are in line with someone with narcissistic personality disorder or bipolar personality disorder. Triangulation is a very common manipulation tactic. And when you add in these third parties, even a therapist, in my situation, I thought a private mediator would help because
Yeah.
the court appointed mediators were horribly biased towards me. They didn't really want to listen to anything I had to say. So I thought maybe a private mediator would really have the education and experience to spot these manipulative tactics. And man, that is not showing, that is not being held true right now.
Yeah.
We'll see what the final result is here.
Mm.
But yeah, man, when you're in a position where I wouldn't do it,
Yeah.
I would not apologize for something I didn't do because you're leaning into for the child to be talking about something that never happened.
Yeah.
Unless if that child has severe psychological issues, uh, the more common explanation or the more likely explanation is parental alienation, is that the other parent is filling their head with these lies.
Well, yeah.
And that is abuse. That is psychological abuse. So for you as a parent to just give in and say, okay, I'm sorry, when that never happened, you're playing along with the abuse and allowing it to happen, which sucks because for you to try to set a boundary there, if the therapist doesn't believe you, that could backfire and blow up in your face so fast
Yeah.
and cause them to rule against you. You lose your parental rights, and that child is going to get put with the abuser.
Well,
This happens all the time. I wonder if it's the majority of the time.
yeah. Well, you raised a good point there too. Is like they so then the therapist would then use that against you. See, it's weird because a therapist is supposed to be able to actually report to the court. And here in my situation, I had that therapist subpoenaed to the court for a hearing to testify, and he would not testify to anything that happened in conjoint therapy. He wouldn't even present a report. I mean, he can't give recommendations, and that was told up front. This guy could not give recommendations to the court. Okay, so be it. That's fine. But a report that shows something about the conjoint therapy, that is what is needed. He wouldn't do that. He wouldn't talk about in any way, shape, or form about any of the visits, any of the sessions. And I mean, I had to really get crafty here and the things I had to ask him just to show that, okay, there was conjoint therapy. That's on the record. His communication with me about conjoint therapy. Okay, that's on the record. I had to trick him in so many different ways because he was given an excuse that HIPAA laws prevent him from talking about this, these sessions on a privacy issue of my child. Yeah,
So
you
what?
understand how absurd this is?
So that would pose the question then, what is the benefit of ordering these individuals to be involved in the case?
Very much
Just
so.
the blind assumption that if they go talk to this person, their life will be better for it?
Right. Well, yeah, and that's kind of where, like, you're in court. I guess you got to try to be crafty and, like, trick them into answering some things, and then and you only get as much as, okay, yes, we have had communication. I mean, I got him on. Hey, here is actually here's an email. Can you tell me if what's your email address? And he'd tell me his email address and said, "Oh, so is it this exhibit right here?" And I present that into evidence, and then have him look at it, and oh yeah, he had to verify. Oh, good. And then his phone number. Oh, okay, good. And is this your writing? Oh yeah, yes. He couldn't lie, right? It's right there on the paper.
Yeah.
Um, it's just shameful, man, that here's like a professional that's literally going to try to undermine you in a case because he knows he would get more of these sessions if he just didn't say anything at all.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, and the problem with these therapists, especially conjoint reunification and so forth, is that a lot of the time they're being put in place in order for that parent to have access to the child,
Mhm.
um, and they kind of make it sound like, well, you have to complete this therapy, and the therapy is a door open for you to start spending time with your child in certain situations, right? And if you haven't had any time with your child, you're just like you want to take anything, right? And but a lot of the time there's no timeline, there's no exit criteria that's put in the order.
Yeah.
So this is just indefinite until the end of time, until this individual who financially profits from these sessions decides you don't have to come back no more. Well, that's a
Yeah.
conflict of interest.
Yeah. Yeah. It is told me by lawyers even that they didn't have there's no specific deadline, but attorneys told me that there's just here's like here's just a rule we go by of like 3 months, of
And put
session.
it in the order. Put it in the order so it's clear to everyone.
Well, what says in the order is, via conjoint therapy until released, and what is it, by other orders of the court. Yeah, nothing specific, right? And that's
So they didn't say until the conjoint therapist signed off on it.
right.
They
Like,
said,
actually, when I think
is
about
that what
that,
it said, or was it until released
the
by the
way that
court?
the order said it is actually via conjoint therapy until further orders are made. They didn't even give it a specific wording of when the therapist releases you.
Yeah,
This last order that was made by the judge, it did.
yeah,
She did put it that until released by the therapist, but that was this is the whole issue in the first place, is because of that pile of shit, you know, judge that I had the first time, you know.
sure.
Yeah. So that guy didn't put anything in the orders. He literally like made it as vague as the sky looks, fill in the blank.
And yeah, this is what I've been struggling with since day one, is these vague orders, and it
Right.
took time for them to start to show their faces.
Right.
And I don't know if it's intentional or if it's just these judges pushing papers through one case after another. God knows how many cases they see every single day. And when you have a high conflict individual, they're looking for loopholes in the wording. You
Uh-huh.
know, um, yeah,
Ooh, that's good.
it's a problem.
They are looking for loopholes, and then definitely the wording is how they're going to get it. Hmm. Yeah.
So
Well,
definitely, if you can ever keep these third parties out of these family law cases, man, that would be my goal. I know that.
yes, I definitely agree. Trying to stay away from any third party that you possibly can. Um,
Now,
there are
where I
others
might,
like,
if you're going to do a psychologist or something, what I definitely would never want is, because I'll go do a psych eval if you want,
yeah,
if that's going to give me access to my child, by all means. But here's the deal: I'm not doing any psych eval with anyone connected to this court. with
Right.
anyone that's friends with these judges or regularly works with the court. I will go through my own provider and do it myself through a neutral third party.
One that doesn't report to the court, if that's even possible, if that's even
Yeah,
exists.
again, and that's the whole problem with these, right? With the HIPAA laws, what's the point of all this if they
Yeah.
can't even provide this information? And I understand HIPAA laws. There's a reason for those are there,
Yeah.
but yeah, a
So
circus.
in your closing notes, what do you have to say?
Um, in general, this is the problem. When you have a high conflict case, you have someone uh, that regularly tries to triangulate people. When you add a third person, a third point to that triangle, it opens the door for manipulation. Um,
Yeah.
and it just, I wonder if there's more harm done through some of these third parties entering the situation, these family law cases, than actually helping either the parents or the child. What about you? What are your closing thoughts here?
Well, I mean, after looking through the experiences that I've had with these third party extensions, I think, as like you said, well, just like you want to try to avoid at all costs of actually going to use any of these. I know that there's that challenge of bringing that up to the judge, and so maybe right now is like have this, look it up, understand in your back pocket. I have an argument to every single extension that they're wanting to do. So one of them being like supervised visitation. You know that you don't have to do supervised visitation if you can convince the judge that you have a third party person that you both that both parents know equally, and then can actually agree that that would be a person who would actually do whether the visits or the exchanges, because you can be in a situation where you have to do an actual exchange just to have somebody to walk your child over to you. They actually have those. I had to do it before. So
That's what I have to do on Saturdays.
yeah.
Despite
Oh,
that, I have no criminal record. I've never been accused of breaking the law, anything like that.
well,
And we're
disregard
doing the
it.
exchange at the police station. I have to stay in the vehicle on Saturdays simply because the lobby is closed. The police station is not closed.
Yeah.
Clearly, crime still happens on the weekends.
Yeah.
But I have to have a third party there to get my daughter out of the car and walk her across the street.
Yeah. So you can see like, well, but you didn't have to pay somebody to go do it though, right?
Not yet, but it's become a problem. And I've tried
Okay.
twice to file a motion to have it removed, and all
Well,
they do
that,
is listen
I
to what
mean,
the other side says, and they ignore what I say.
I would say that you're blessed in the fact that you at least get to have somebody that's commonly known. When you have to go and pay a service, I mean, bro, this is like $100 every single time you want to go see your child.
Yeah.
And
Oh, for the
it's
supervised visitation, yeah, that's like $100 an hour, man. I've heard of
no,
dads that get.
I'm talking about exchange monitors, ones that
Oh,
just go
really?
there to go and just walk your child over to each parent. It's a
Yeah,
hundred
I,
bucks
I
every
I've looked
single
it up
time.
locally. It's 50 to 60, depending on whether you do it at
Where you
the.
are at,
Yeah, yeah, and
you
it's something
get
I may eventually have to start doing on Saturdays. But that's $60 a week. I'm already getting, you know, I'm already struggling to get by as it is. Can't have an attorney. I'm having to fight this, as a pro per litigant now.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so to add $240 a month to my expenses in this day
yeah.
and age is not feasible.
Well, that sounds like a pretty good deal. I mean, I wouldn't say it's a good deal anyway, but like it's a good deal where you're at versus where I'm at.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's less
so,
financially damaging apparently than where you're at. I got better options apparently.
yeah. So I digress. So the point is like just knowing these alternatives that you can take, not needing to go and do 3111, stay away from it in the sense that like, okay, I don't need to have a therapist in this perspective of, if it's parental alienation, try to go another route. We've worked with Hope and Darkness. and they seem to actually have another route for those parental alienation type of scenarios. There's definitely like some tactics you could do.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's the whole thing. Just try to stay away from any of these third parties as you possibly can. And we'll try to actually just like get a list of some of those added for you all to just, take a look at and see if that works for your case.
Yeah, if you're a pro per litigant, especially, or even if you have an attorney, man, definitely make yourself, if you're just getting started in this, make
Yeah.
yourself familiar with what all these are and what the requirements are for your state and your county.
Yeah,
Don't go in there
and
blind.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, like anything your attorney suggests, and don't just quick to say, "Yeah, it sounds good." No, like, okay, write that down, and and then you just go and research exactly what are the specifications of that, so you know what you're getting into.
Yeah, yeah.
But that wraps us up for this evening, and hey, stay good, stay motivated, and get your kids back.
Till next time.